Hello there, it's Sarah from Paper Lovely. Thanks for joining me today. I am going to be sharing with you one of my swap bot exchanges, and this is a Goodie tower. I actually got the same person for the international and US swap for the February swap bot exchange. So rather than doing 2 pocket letters for her, I decided to do a Goodie tower as the second swap item. So I am again using the PinkFresh Noteworthy collection, and I have sped this up quite a bit. I do have a longer, almost real-time tutorial for how to create these Goodie towers, and I will go ahead and link that below for you, but I will give you the measurements here. So the lid is trimmed to 6 1/8 by 6 1/8. The box is 5 3/4 by 5 3/4. So those are the 4 boxes that actually fit on the inside of the tower. The tower itself is 6 1/8 by 12. And then there's also a little sort of strip that's like a belt that goes across the center, and that is 1 inch by 12. So all of the lid as well as the little boxes, you're going to score at 1.5 inches on all 4 sides. The tower, you're going to, as well as the belt that goes along it, you're going to score at 3, 6, and 9 inches. It's going to give you all the folds so everything matches up together. So I'm going through here and getting everything scored. And then I will go ahead and, of course, fold everything down on all of those score lines. There you can see how my box is going to come together. So I went ahead and took all of these pieces over to my sewing machine and added some gold different style stitches around them. I did a leaf pattern on the belt that's going to go around it. And then for the front of the boxes, I used that same leaf pattern. I just did that along one side because you're really only going to see one side of it. And then I trimmed out some vellum panels as well as a panel from that yellow and white gingham, and I have zigzag stitched all of those on top of the 4 sections of my box. So I'm going to speed things back up again here for the sake of time. And as you'll see, I'm going around and I'm just cutting one of the edges here on the squares on the side. That's going to help all of this fold together to create my lid as well as my little boxes. Again, I'm going quickly here. If you need to know more details on how to put this together, check out the link below. I take you through step by step as I make this in the first video that I did about a year ago. So I'm just trimming all of these, and then I'm going to add some Scor-Tape to all of those little tabs that I've created there. I'm using some 1/2 inch Scor-Tape. And then to create my box, I'm going to peel this away and tuck these corners in together. So I'm just going to run one of my stamp blocks over top to make sure that my Scor-Tape is down nice and tight. Then I will peel away the backing. I'm going to fold that tab underneath the other side, just making sure that those corners are nice and lined up so I get a nice crisp corner on my boxes. For this belt section here, again, I will use my Scor-Tape. I'm going to run just one strip of that across the center. And then I do have some of my gold threads hanging off from my stitching. I didn't bother to back stitch since this was a really decorative stitch, so I'm just going to take those edges and loop them around and stick them onto that tape that'll hold them nice and secure. And then I will go ahead and take this, and using my mat here, I'm going to make sure I get this nice and centered, and I'll just peel away the backing with each section as I place this down. And there we go. So I'm going to get all of my little inside boxes attached now, running some of my Scor-Tape along the top and bottom of one side of the boxes. And if you're doing stitching like I'm doing, you want to make sure that you're doing this on the opposite side of the stitching so that that will be facing out. So there you can see, I wanted to make sure these were nice and secure so they can hold things that are a little bit heavier. I did add some 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch Scor-Tape in between those two strips of 1/2 inch there. And I've sort of lined up my boxes just to make sure that they're going to fit, just sort of eyeballing that. And then I'm going to start here with the bottom box, peeling off that backing and placing that down. Then I will do the top box, and then I will fill in the two in the middle. So you want to keep these fairly close together, but you have to be careful because they need to slide on top of each other. So you just want to be checking that as you're going along. You'll see here in a second as I put this third box on, I do have it slightly off from where I need it to be. So luckily I had not pressed it down very tight, and you'll see my paper did tear a little bit, and I'll show you how I fixed that. But you just want to make sure you're lining this up really nicely so that it will be able to fold and slide on top and underneath of the other boxes. So once I've got that lined up and I know that that's going to work, I will go ahead and press that into place. So there you can see I've got that little tear there. I always like to add some extra decoration on the inside anyway, so that was the perfect spot for a sticker. And then I've gone through here with some of my cut aparts, and I'm going to choose one of those, and I'll trim that out and place that on this long section here as well. I will come back and add a little bit more pattern paper towards the end of the video, just so that there's a little bit on all 4 of these panels. But there you can see how that will open and close really easily. And I'm once again going to make sure that those are all down nice and tight. So now I'm going to start decorating up all of the sides of my box, and I wanted to, since I'm using a sort of map patterned paper, I wanted to make this front section sort of like the home base. So I'm using that living room furniture that was included. So I'm going to create a little scene here with that. And I'm just gluing these down, some of them with art glitter glue, some of them with some foam dots, just to give a little bit more dimension. And as I place everything down, I'm just keeping in mind that I do need to create a little flap that's going to help keep this closed. So adding a couple sentiments up here. And then I've grabbed this Moments piece of ephemera, and I'm going to grab my scoreboard, and I just want to have a little piece of that I can fit some Velcro on that'll tuck over onto this sort of home section, and I'll add some Velcro dots, and that'll help keep my box closed when the lid isn't on it. So I'm going to first add some Scor-Tape on this larger size. And I'll peel away that backing. I'm going to go ahead and place that down here. Make sure that's nice and tight. And then I'll pull in my Velcro dots. So I'm going to add 3 of these, just spacing those out evenly along the edge here. And then the way that I line mine up is I place one down and then I place the opposite side down on top of it. And then as I fold this over, I'll make sure that all my dots will be perfectly lined up for when I open and close this. And I'll make sure all of those are down nice and tight. So I'm going to go ahead and turn up the music at this point and let you just enjoy the process. I sort of decorated the other 3 sides as going around and through the town since I have that matte background. And I'm really excited with how this turned out. This is one of my favorite projects that I've made in quite a while. So I will be back towards the end just to sort of walk you through the finished project and a few of the things that I've included as the goodies inside the tower. So one of the goodies that I included were some of these cutout flowers. This is one of my favorite dies that I've purchased in a long time. I got both the small and the large peony flowers from the stamp market. And I used some of my leftover pattern paper to trim out a bunch of these, and then pulled in some cardstock for the leaves as well as the center of the flowers. So I'm going to create one of them just so that she has a sample of how they're supposed to go together, and just adding some art glitter glue there and layering the two on top of each other. You can do more than 2 layers. I think 1 is plenty, but if you wanted to go over and above, you could do 2 or even 3 of each of the sizes if you wanted. Here I'm taking that center section and I just roll that around into a tight circle, add a little bit of glue, and then hold that in place until it's nice and dry. It doesn't take very long if you use just a small dot. And then I'll place a dot in the center of the flower, press that down, and again, hold that, just let that sit until it dries. Now, in order to fit these in the box, I did have to go ahead and curl the larger of the flowers here. So I'm just going through and doing that to all of those. And it's just a little bit of curl, so she can add some more if she wants when she puts hers together. But this way it fit down really nicely into the little box. And I'm just gonna spread out the inside of my flower there to make that a little bit prettier. And that'll all tuck nice and neatly down in there. So I'm gonna give you a quick real-time look here at the completed box. There's a look at the lid, and then I'll flip this around so you can see what all of the sides look like with the lid on top. And then I'll give you a close-up look at each of the 4 sides without the top. And then here, once I filled it with all the goodies, I'm going to give you a look at the inside. I ended up moving these flowers to the top because it stuck out just slightly, and that way I have a little bit extra room with that lid there. But that is the finished flower, just as a sample. And then you can see I have all of the smaller pieces on the bottom, and then those curled larger portions of the flowers on top. So everything sort of tucks in there nice and neatly. In the second box, I've added some gold fun hearts and some glittery bows and some clips. I think most, if not all of them, are from Maggie Holmes. In the third box here, I've just created some blank rosettes to add to her stash so she can just have them ready to go and decorate up. And then lastly, in this bottom box, I've created a bunch of flat back buttons. Just pulled out some of the pieces of that pattern paper that I thought were interesting and placed those together. Go ahead and slide all that and place my lid on top, and it is ready to go. Here are a few close-ups of the finished tower. In the description box below, you'll find my blog post, which has additional photos and links to the supplies I used. Make sure you leave me a comment below so you can be entered in this week's March Madness giveaway. Thank you again so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.